Hello, this is Dr. Jason Munson. It is about 5 o'clock, Thursday, October the 6th. I got a clown. But I'm not going to clown around. I'm going to talk about media more. My computer glasses are dirty. Where I stopped off last time, I was just sort of going through the stuff for chapter 3, the stuff that I wanted to. And I left off where I was going to talk about that supplemental thing on visual analysis, visual criticism. And when I say criticism, and I probably have said this before, if I'm repeating myself, good, because of repetition. Repetition is important. That visual sort of way of critiquing media or criticism means to critique or analyze. It's not in your book, but it is actually, I draw it from a book called Rhetoric in Popular Culture by Barry Brummett, who's at the University of Texas. And so I want to go over that briefly, and then I want to apply it to some stuff, those memes that I told you that I found. I've also put media-centered analysis criticism. I'm not going to talk about this in this particular online lecture, but I will talk about it at some other time. So you'll need to open this up, because you probably won't be able to see it here because it's all white. I apologize for that. But it's more of a handout than a PowerPoint. And it is supplemental information. It's a mode of rhetorical criticism, and if I have not defined that yet for you, that's basically just a mode of looking at rhetoric, any sort of rhetorical text, whether it be a political speech or a political commercial or something altogether different, that is intentionally persuasive or else invites us to see the world in a particular way. So it's sort of implicitly persuasive. And it does, there's lots of different modes of rhetorical criticism. And so we can analyze visuals through lots of different types of modes of criticism. Some of the stuff that I haven't covered in class, and I might or might not, Marxist stuff and psychoanalytical stuff, which is on here. But remember, we have covered lots of stuff like metaphor and everything like that. There are visual metaphors. So there's lots of things, and gender, think about gender. There's lots of things that we have already discussed in class that I think we could utilize or blend it with some of this stuff that I'm going to be yakking about when it comes to issues of visuals. Another thought, visuals and understanding visuals in relation to not just media, but in our everyday lives is unbelievably important now in this media age in which we live, because we live in a very, very visual culture. Obviously, we're always visuals. But with media and all that type of stuff, I mean, we see, and we see more Trump than we hear, in a sense. Does that make sense? But a lot of the way that we make decisions about stuff is through not just hearing stuff, but seeing the visuals. So we live in a very visual culture, and we need to understand how visuals can influence us. And there's more to the story than this. I mean, I'm just sort of offering a few different things. So, this next little section is images and meaning. Barry Brummett does say that when it comes to images like photographs or whatever, there is never a sort of, that's what it is. It's just an image of, or it's just a picture of. There's always it's something there. Image-like language, he says, has structure. They appear in context, and they must be interpreted so as to extract meaning from them. And so, oftentimes, they're put together in particular ways, or even out of intention or not, the way things like camera angles, all that stuff impacts the meaning of the image. Also, he says, to understand generally how images often mean, we have to return back, well, we have to think about issues of association. And so for us, I mean, you think about when we talked about the ideas of names and labels and what things are associated with, but is there any association in the image? Does the image associate certain things with certain other things, and whatever, certain other things with something completely else? Does the image imply anything or lead to suggest something? And some of the theory stuff that folks talk about, they use the terms like keystone and transformation. A keystone is really an important part of an image. Is there something, whatever the image might be, it doesn't necessarily have to be a single photograph, is there something there that becomes unbelievably important? So right now, you all are going, that damn clown. Spooky clown. Oh. And so, what's really important there is that, for instance, if you, and we'll see one of these soon, if you see an image of Trump or of Clinton, a keystone might be put a little Hitler stash on, they become Hitler. And why does this mean Hitler? It's because we now associate this little thing that nobody would ever do in their right mind now. I mean, I could go right now, shave the rest of my beard, and have a Hitler stash. And I would probably get fired. Maybe, maybe not. But everybody would go, what the hell? That guy must be, look at his head. He's a skinhead Nazi dude. So keystone. And then another thing might be a transformation. A sign or an image, part of the image might serve as a transformation. A certain, it stand for something completely different. So this clown is here to represent the clown sightings that have occurred in the upstate and every other place. My wife was talking to me this morning, and she said one of her friends who teaches school, like grade school or something like that, even in Minnesota, said they had to announce to all the students that they needed to report clown sightings. I don't know too much about it, but clown. If you've seen any clowns, send in the clowns. Oh, so what's and also in the image, is there anything in conflict? Is there anything that should be there that's not there? Is there something that the visual is against? That type of stuff. They pit things against one another. Another thing to think about, this is the next bullet point, we also need to realize that images appear in context. And context, whether it be historical or political or whatever, or otherwise, I mean, always need to be appreciated when we're trying to understand why a certain visual might particularly mean something. For instance, the image of the Twin Towers means something completely different post 9/11. We even go back and see or look at the images pre 9/11, and the 9/11 has transformed. Well, it's a different thing, but the meaning is different because of the context. The clown, is different because of the context of these folks out there doing whatever they're doing. I don't know. And then this last bullet point in this section, images and meaning, basically says what we really need to think about is the type of logic or way of thinking, and sometimes those might be values or ideologies that an image invites us or urges us to think about. For instance, Brummett says, we oftentimes see, and this is problematic, but in sort of hip-hop videos or gangster rap or whatever, he talks about, and this is from Brummett, not me, but we can see a lot of materialism with all the bling or whatever, and material goods, and what does that mean? Does it mean folks are materialistic? Well, I don't know. But, if that's his example, but if you look at any sort of visual, what is it asking us to think about? Car commercial with a Jeep or whatever, and a family going up to the mountains. It's sort of, we want you to buy this car, but also we should value family and the outdoors. And in the outdoors, we find clowns, or in the circus, or in random places. Okay, the next thing, next little section here is says, are images all about collective memory and community? Yeah, sometimes. A lot of rhetorical scholars, I say here, are highly interested in studying how images are used to build a collective memory and community. How do we see these things together? Not all images can bring a people together that way, but sometimes they do. Think about, again, some of the things that I'm going to show you. The memes, how memes of Trump, particularly nasty memes, might try to bring the Clinton folks together to see Trump in a particular way. Or the nasty memes about Clinton might bring the Trump folks all together in a particular way. Or think about nasty images of Osama bin Laden, blah, 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 blah. In any case, this is the next bullet point. Although a lot of folks argue we use images to create feeling. Well, a lot of folks argue that we do use images to create feelings of shared memory and common ground, even though that might not actually be always the case. And then the next bullet point, many rhetorical scholars are interested in the ambiguity of images, because sometimes they're ambiguous, so it allows people to see certain things in them that other people might not be able to see. Ambiguity, it simply means that the image is vague or general, so lots of folks can read sort of what they want into it. And I say here, that's all fine and dandy, but there are many visuals that actually create conflict. For instance, a visual of the Confederate flag. It certainly brings a certain community together, but also divides the whole community in lots of different ways. Another last thing is point of view. Not before I get into this sort of thing as method. And when I say method, again, this could be a possible approach if you wanted to use this in your paper along with whatever else concepts from the book you might want to also use. Usually this is about subject position. I don't know if you understand what that means, but anything visual sort of put us or ask us to be in a certain position, see the world from a particular vantage point. And so what position does the camera put us in? Does it put us over somebody? That means that we have dominance over them, or are they above us, which means, all hail clown. See, the clown is hailing me. Okay. And also notions of intimacy. Oftentimes, when a visual, you show it up close, something or other to something. Those types of things, and basically, all this stuff. We're looking at all, or you way far away. It all sort of impacts the meaning. That's pretty much it. What we can interpret the visual as meaning. Ooh, holy moly! There's a big old vulture. It's eaten a squirrel. That's huge. Random. In this online lecture about media, we have clowns, we have vultures, and we have jack-o'-lanterns. Yeah. Okay. So, this as a method. One of the things that you might want to think about, if you again are really invested in analyzing visuals, is to use these critical probes. And when I say critical probes, what I generally mean is just probing questions that you can use to think critically. So, you're looking at an image, or whatever. It can be a commercial, it can be whatever, a series of images. What is associated with that image? Is there an obvious association? Is there an obvious disassociation? Does the image, through a keystone sign or a transformation sign, imply something or lead to some idea, concept, or value? Is there conflict in the image? Is there anything not in the image that becomes significant because it's